Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. Today I got a vintage watch, and this is not one that is available for sale unless you can pick it up on eBay, which I'll put a link to any kind of search results where you might find this. And like always, you know, if it is something that you are looking for, hit me up. You never know. I got a lot of watches, and, you know, if it's one that I don't really wear all that much, I may part with it. So today we're talking about a vintage digital Seiko, and this is model number M154-5009. Now, it does need a new battery, so unfortunately it does not work at the moment. But this is kind of what I really enjoy about watches, or one of the things I really enjoy about watches, is that I was talking to somebody the other day, and we just, it was a customer, and we happened to spark up a conversation about, you know, about clocks and things we collect. And she was an older lady, of course, and she, you know, said, "Oh, you collect watches?" Oh, I was like, "Oh yeah," because you know, I think like most watch collectors, I think, you know, and I think a lot of you guys out there, I'm not saying the watch snobs, I'm saying watch collectors who just appreciate watches in general and enjoy wearing watches, aren't worried about the price dips, you know, are just looking to have a good time and enjoy this hobby. You know, I think appreciate really all watches. You know, there's always going to be watches that, you know, is this something that I'm going to slap on the wrist and get super excited about? No, but what I do appreciate is, you know, a little bit about my story, although as simple as it may be, just a basic conversation that led to getting a free watch. I still appreciate anybody who takes the time to talk about watches and share something they had in their family, right? So again, this was something that, you know, was her late husband's. She did gift me a couple other watches, mainly some women's watches and a vintage Pulsar watch, which I'll come back and share at a later date. But you know, I think Seiko, even though I'm not, you know, I think there's some guys out there when they talk about Seiko, it's like, oh, if you want a good quality, affordable watch, you get a Seiko. Don't buy the Pagani, don't buy the Invicta, don't buy the Aragon. It's just nonsense, you know. But Seiko is a fantastic brand, don't get me wrong, but you pay a little bit more of a premium with a Seiko than you would if you just bought a steel dive. Again, always buy what makes you happy, but that's just the facts here. That's just facts. And so something like this isn't a superior watch, but it is a watch that I find interesting, and I love watches from the 80s. And so I remember one of my very first watches that totally dry rotted, like the whole thing, the entire rubber on the Casio watch. It wasn't a G-Shock, it was called the Twin Graph, completely fell off. And if you were alive in the 80s, the 80s was a time where like electronics were kind of like getting rolling, you know what I mean? And so there was a lot of really cool watches made by Casio back then. And the Twin Graph was one that I absolutely loved. You hit that Twin Graph and you had all these different LCDs, you know, the liquid crystal display. It was so high-tech looking. And that was awesome, right? I still have it, but it is just beat to hell. Probably still works, but it's just, you know, it has no rubber on it, but I would never get rid of it because it was a watch from my past, right? And you can still find those. I think Casio still makes something very similar, which I may pick one up eventually. So this one here, again, is the M154-5009. It is a quartz LCD watch, and I was excited to get it because even though I may not feel like Seiko a lot of times is worth spending extra money on when you can just get a steel dive or a Pagani, it doesn't mean I really don't appreciate the brand. I have one other Seiko in my collection, and that was one my dad got back in the early 80s. And I do wear it from time to time. So pretty cool. So normally what this has is, and this was pretty high tech. You know, I know other watches, I don't know the huge history of what was available and what wasn't, but you do have the day of the week, and you do have the date, an AM PM indicator, and of course, you know, the time. And so I dig stuff like this. This is on like some sort of stainless steel. I don't know if it's 316. It's very thin. It's classic to what you would find with a Seiko from the, I believe this is from the 80s, just by me looking at it. I don't honestly know. But I'm looking at one on eBay here, and it's pretty incredible to me that this watch on eBay is going for almost $200. So kind of a nice score. Mine is actually, in my opinion, in better condition than the one on eBay. Is this something I would part with? You know, I don't know, maybe. It's not something I'm going to wear. It's really just one for the collection. And although I do appreciate, you know, somebody, you know, the lady giving this to me, you know, it's not of sentimental value for me. Although I do appreciate the story, and you know, we'll see. Sometimes I almost hope that watches like this won't have any value, because if they do, you know, if it's something that I'm not going to wear, and I'll do this with any watch that I bought, was, you know, given as a sponsorship, whatever the case may be. If it's something that I just don't really find all that interesting, or all that unique, or something again I'm not really going to wear all that much, then I may part with it, because there are collectors out there who specifically collect Seikos. There are collectors out there who specifically collect 80s watches. So pretty cool. I think as far as the other 80s watches I have an Armatron calculator watch. I have an old G-Shock, which same thing, has dry rotted and fallen apart. But this is still a pretty cool watch. It's iconic to the 80s. As far as specifications on this, I'm going off here just right off what is listed here. It is. It says this is from eBay, so take this with a grain of salt. The country of manufacture, and this is kind of common sense there, is Japan. I believe Seikos are still made in Japan, but don't quote me on that. There's a lot of information here about the watch, but I don't know how correct it is, so I'm not really going to share it. As far as like, you know, the like for instance, it lists here indices, Arabic numeral. I don't think that's correct. The date here looks correct, 1980 to 1990. And again, the model number I know is correct. But I mean, pretty cool looking watch. Let me go ahead and throw it on the wrist. You know, these are the kind of things where, I don't know. I just, you know, it's just funny to me that even though I actually have to size this a little bit, that's pretty cool. So if I do throw this on eBay, you know, it definitely has some extra links here. This could definitely be downsized a little bit, which is nice, because once you size a watch to 7-inch wrists like my wrist, you know, you know, generally people have anywhere from a 6 to an 8-inch wrist. I'm not saying all people, but that's kind of a good average there. So it's nice that this still has a little extra material. You can upsize, you can wear it just like this, or you can downsize it. But this is, again, what it looks like on a 7-inch wrist. Very cool. I don't have a lot of watches like this from the 80s. And again, this is not something that, you know, I think sometimes, I'm just rambling on here, but I think sometimes, you know, when I've had different jobs over the years, I don't interact with a lot of people in what I do. And so, you know, I do interact with people, but it's not like a constant interaction. You know, it's not like when I was younger working customer service, or if you're working in a setting where you are dealing with customers on a non-stop basis, or if you're in any kind of, you know, position of authority or whatever it may be, you know, depending on what position you're in. I've had jobs, I'm not going to disclose too much about myself, but I've had jobs where I've interacted with thousands of people every single day, right? And what I found about, and when I used to drink, right? I used to go to the bar every single day. And so what I found about those times is, as much as I enjoy, and I always say wear watches for you, right? Wear them for yourself. I always enjoyed sparking up a conversation about it, because I think we all like to talk about things that we're into, right? And everybody likes to talk about themselves. Just, you have to have a balance, right? But I always appreciated, you know, when I was working and interacting with person after person, you know, whether it's a big Invicta, somebody seeing like, wow, that's quite a watch, or, ooh, I have Invicta too. Wearing something like this I would enjoy more, because I knew I was going to get to talk about it throughout the day and kind of interact with it. My coworkers, if you worked with a lot of people, you know, if you have a big team or something like that, you know, your coworkers, you build a relationship with your coworkers, and they're always like, oh, good morning, you know, what do you got on the wrist today? And so it's kind of fun to share these different, you know, watches. I'm kind of an extreme person when it comes to, I'm very open-minded. So like, it's kind of interesting when I'm out in my driveway or my garage working out like a maniac, or I'm beating the hell out of the bag. You know, my music can go from like house music to like, you know, very dated, ink, you know, like the ink blots, or can go up to like, you know, heavy metal, grunge. You know, the extremes are always there. And so it's just kind of the same with my watches. You know, I like a huge, you know, one day you might see me wearing this like I wore yesterday, this gigantic Invicta, which I absolutely love, to, you know, something smaller like your, you know, nice Spinnaker homage to a Submariner, or something like this that's digital. You know, so it is pretty cool to have the variety in a collection. And I think what's also fun about watch collecting. I didn't mean this video to come into a big giant discussion, but you know, I think it's fun that like people out there, and I bashed on haters for years, right? I've talked about watch snobs and all these idiots you see on YouTube. But I always appreciate the ones who just really like genuinely like watches. And if you like watches, even a guy who may look at this and be like, that I would never, like they might never wear this, right? Could say, wow, you know, I do find that interesting, even though like, you could honestly think it's ugly. But you could be nice to people, because if you say something's ugly that somebody else likes, you're insulting them. You know what I mean? And so that doesn't mean keep your mouth shut, not have an opinion, right? And we have that freedom. But I do believe in being kind to people and being open-minded with what people like, and you know, as long as you're respectful, I think we can all have differences. There's nothing wrong with seeing a watch like this and being like, that I would never wear that, right? Fat guy, I would never wear that. That is all you, right? Or you can say something like that and get the point across that you probably think that the watch is ugly, right? But you know, this is a watch I absolutely love. This is one of my favorite Invictas, right? And so I like when people can look at watches and say, yeah, but you know, the quality's nice. It's amazing that they can tool up and machine something like this for the price points. I find it's a marvel. I mean, to produce things like this for price points, we get them, you know. And we can argue about labor and all this stuff and what's right or wrong, but it's just, regardless of how you feel about it, these are available. Just like, you know, some people get on the high and mighty soapbox, oh, trial and labor in China. You know, it's like, dude, don't you have a Vizio TV in your house? Don't you have a Sony TV? Like, where the fuck do you think all this stuff's made? You're wearing your Chinese shirt. It's like, get off the soapbox. Like, you can't be like all against one product and it's okay for another. You know, be a fucking hypocrite. But I digress. But you know, I think that people who again enjoy watches like myself, you know, again, this one doesn't drive me like wild. Like I don't feel excited to wear this like I do this Invicta, but you know, it's fun to have, you know, and I think it's kind of fun. If you like watches, it doesn't matter if you have expensive watches or very inexpensive watches. Like when you go into a secondhand store, you never know what little prize you might find. And I don't mean that you might go in there and find like a vintage Rolex. You may, you know, or most people know the name, but you might find something that has value and you could maybe sell. Maybe that's your reasoning for looking, you know, kind of a bargain hunter. But, you know, I just think it's kind of fun to find things that, you know, for a good price that you can add to your collection. Hence the reason why I have every watch for the most part that I've ever owned, even as a little kid, except for one. I had this big boombox watch. It was a boombox that actually plugged some headphones and it was a radio. And I don't know what happened to it, but it's too bad because all the other stuff I have, you know, and I didn't have tons of watches as a kid. I have an original Star Wars watch, you know, a little digital watch, you know, and so I just think it's a lot of fun to collect, and I think that, you know, it's just too bad the kind of the community we have out there that, I don't know, you know, it's just too bad that but that's the world we live in, you know. There's so many keyboard warriors out there. I was watching, this is another example, I'm just bullshitting here, but saw the Christmas vacation car. Remember the big giant, I forget what it was called, the big station wagon, right? I think it's safe to say there was an ugly machine, right? But it might be beautiful to some folks, right? But no matter what, it was meant to be a car that was like not a real looker, right? I think most people would agree that that's like not the nicest looking car, right? So we all grow to love that car though from the movie. And so this customization company, it might have been a SEMA car or whatnot, they rebuilt one like to a T. I mean, gorgeous. Did some modern upgrades. Has like a 6.8 liter turbo diesel in it. It's fast, right? I mean, killed it. Knocked it out of the park. And they put, you remember, if you remember, the car had these like tons of headlights across the front. They put modern LEDs in there. And you should see the keyboard idiots getting on there being like, oh, no, complaining about the headlights. Like, this is like a $100,000 build. Like, and you're whining about the headlights. So again, you're always get people who just shoot their mouth off. The internet has made it, you know, some people just shouldn't, everybody has an opinion, but some people just, you know, you just shouldn't. It was nice when people just had that, kept that inside, right? Then we didn't have to listen to people and their stupidity. But I don't know, I just wouldn't personally get on one of these social media platforms and be like, oh, just because it's not my taste. And like, even though I bash on Rolex a lot, it's still it's still a great company, right? It's still, whether I like it or not, I still appreciate the look and what goes into making them, and of course the quality, but I'm realistic about what you get for your money. But it doesn't mean like I'm gonna get on Instagram and everybody who puts a picture of a luxury watch, tell them they're stupid for wanting it. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know. I just feel like if you don't unless you attack me, I'm not really going to attack you, If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, but that's the world we live in. So anyway, I'm just totally digressing, but mainly about the watch. But anyway, check it out. I'll put a link to where these are available. If I can help you guys in any way, if you are looking for a watch like this, by all means, a lot of times, I get people follow me on the social media platforms, and they're saying, hey, do you want to part with anything? Let me know. You never know. But still a cool watch, and still a nice watch. At least for now, I have in my collection. And, it's got a few scratches, but overall, it doesn't look like this was one that was beat on too much. So, pretty cool. So, thanks for watching, guys. Happy holidays, and take care.